Hey guys, and welcome to another edition of Burton Ballers. And so Antonio Rudiger has finally confirmed that he's leaving the club. We all knew that already, but he's confirmed it. And he's written an open letter to the Chelsea fans saying goodbye to us and explaining his reasons for leaving. Welcome to the Burton Ballers. Ain't got no time for no stallers, yeah.
We are the risers, we're not the fallers. Our channel is growing wider and taller.
Yeah, we're here to give you the news about your dear beloved Blues, yeah.
So if you like this YouTube channel, like, subscribe and turn on that bell.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's so refreshing that a footballer can write to the supporters, saying their goodbyes and explaining the reasons why he's leaving and giving us some of his fond memories. So I'm just going to give you a brief synopsis of what was in Antonio Rudiger's letter to supporters. If you want to read the full transcript, I will be putting it in the description below so that you can take a look at everything that he said. So just summarising some of the things. First of all, he first spoke about N'Golo Kante, and here's what he said about the man. No one is that cool all the time. It's impossible. Then I met N'Golo Kante. And N'Golo Kante, he's a guy who is always polite. He's always nice to people. He's told about a story where, he drives that Mini. I think he used to ride his bike a lot before he bought a car. He always wanted a car, so he bought a Mini Cooper. And a lot of the players are saying, why don't you now upgrade? You can get a BMW, a Mercedes or something like that. And he would have smiled at them and said, yeah, I'll think about it. But they all knew that he wasn't going to do it because such is the humility of this guy. So he's just happy to drive around in something that can take him from A to B. It's not broken, so there's no need for him to get a new car. And I wish a lot of other footballers would have that attitude. Just because you've got all this money doesn't mean you have to be flashy all the time. And so, plaudits to N'Golo Kante. And he goes on to say there is humble, and there is humble, and then there is N'Golo Kante. Says it all, really. Then he goes on to talk about his friendships. So really go on his friendships. So he says, the trophies that I've won here, they are nice for sure. But what really made Chelsea a special place were the friendships. We were more than teammates. So many of these guys, N'Golo, Kova, Ziyech, Lukaku, they are like brothers. That's very rare in football, honestly. And that's something that Chelsea is unique in. Everyone who plays for Chelsea, they always have a special we always have a special place in their heart because of the culture of the club. People like Eden Hazard, he hasn't been the same since he went to Real Madrid. So people who've been here for a while, they love the club. They love the atmosphere amongst the players. And that's no different with N'Golo Kante. And I think Kova was his best friend out of a lot of them. But, he had his Muslim brothers as well there. So they created a great bond and unity. And that helps with team spirit. Then he goes on to talk about the managers. Indirectly, he spoke about Lampard, where he says, obviously, that was a crazy season for me. I hate to say crazy, but what other word can I use? Not even 6 months before that final, that's the Champions League final, I was on the floor, brother. At that time, I had been dropped from the squad and I couldn't even get a reason why. We had a meeting one day and the manager told me that we had a deep squad and that he preferred others over me. Boom, that was it. After that, there were a lot of rumours. I was getting a lot of abuse on social media. It was the hardest time in my career. And I stayed silent because I did not want to cause issues for the club. So he was getting a lot of stick from the media, abuse, but I'm going to speak about abuse later on, so I'll go on to that. But let's talk about Frank Lampard's managerial skills. And, Frank Lampard, he's had some of the best managers, especially Jose Mourinho, the psyche of the manager, when he came into the dressing room once and said to him, you're the best player in the world. Frank Lampard knew he wasn't the best player in the world because he had like Iniesta, Xavis and the Ronaldinhos at the time. But he was saying that because he wanted to elevate him. He wanted to give him a lot of confidence, a confidence boost. And it did help. It worked because you saw improved performances by Frank. And so, I know that Frank was quite inexperienced when he first took over at Chelsea, but part of management skills is the way that you get through your players, the psyche, the way you get into their heads. And by just ignoring him, not giving them an explanation as to why he wasn't in the side, just to discard him like that, I think that was quite bad management by Frank. I hope he's learned from that experience now at Everton, and that he becomes a better people manager. Because not only Rudiger, there's other players who've had similar problems with Lampard. So contrast that to Thomas Tuchel. So there's what he says about Thomas Tuchel. When Tuchel came in as a manager and gave me a chance, it was a new life for me. Actually, he did something right away that I think a lot of managers could learn from. It was nothing to do with tactics. He just came up to me and he said, "Tony, tell me about yourself." He wanted to know where my aggression and hunger came from. And I told him about growing up in Berlin and how I used to play on hard concrete pitches, and that all the older kids started to call me Rambo. He asked about me as a person, and that was big. When Thomas Tuchel gave me a chance, I had so much motivation that I was never going to go back on the bench. I had made up my mind that I was going to give 200% to this club, to this badge, despite everything that was said about me. People management, there you have it. So just a couple of words, no tactical discussions or whatever. It was a couple of words, and from that, it made him become a better player. We saw that because under Frank, even I gave him a bit of abuse, which I'm ashamed of now to say, but you saw a totally different player. A lot of people are saying, because he switched the formation to make him play in a free rather than a back four. But no, it's not only about that. It's about making a player believe in himself, looking at the manager saying, yeah, he trusts me, so I'm going to give my all for him. And that's what you saw. He said 200%. You can see that on the pitch. He gave everything for Thomas Tuchel on the pitch. Is Thomas Tuchel perfect in that aspect? No, we can't say that, because obviously we look at some of his treatment for other players like Tammy Abraham and everyone else. We don't know what went on there, but there's obviously some issues with some other players. But it's just that the words here and there that can make a big difference to the way that player performs. Mason Mount, Rudiger Mount, another player who splits opinions amongst our fan base, but I prefer to listen to professionals than these social media experts. And this is what he's got to say about Mason Mount. The young boys, this is talking about the Champions League, the young boys played like men on the biggest stage, especially Mount. What a player that boy is, seriously. Elite mentality. Sometimes I have to ask myself, is this guy really that young? The way he moves, the way he carries himself, it's not like he's 23. And that's what a lot of our fan bases don't get. Football is ability takes you that far. Mentality separates you from being a okay to a great player. Elite mentality of John Terry, that's why he was one of the greats. Frank Lampard, Didier Drogba, mentality. And that's what, because he's not silky and flashy like some of the other guys, but his mentality is second to none, and you can't buy that. You've either got it or you haven't. So, this is the sort of player we need to keep. So all these people, Mason Mount needs to go, whatever. They don't understand football, I'm sorry. So, Rudiger on pressure. So there's what he says about pressure. This is the lead up to the Champions League final. He says, I remember the night before the final, we were in the hotel in Porto, and me, N'Golo Kante, Zuma and Ziyech went to pray after dinner. Usually after we finish our prayers, we'll sit around and talk and laugh for a bit. But everyone was just as focused as it was very quiet. I remember we had on our tracksuits and it had the date of the final stitched across the chest, May 29th, 2021. That was when it sunk in. Wow, we're here. We've just looked at each other and said, Inshallah, tomorrow we'll be champions. When we said goodnight and went to bed. When I got to my room, I had a text on my phone from a friend. It was a video. I clicked on it, and it was all these surprise messages from my friends and family back home wishing me good luck. Immediately, I was completely calm. All the pressure disappeared. It was a perfect reminder for me of what is really important in life. So for those who don't know, he's from Sierra Leone, Rudiger, so comes from Sierra Leone, and he then goes on to tell what's happened when he went to Sierra Leone, how people are suffering, they're hungry, and people are having to sell bread and other things to try and put food on their table and bring in some money for their families. And he knows the hardships. He knows what pressure is. Pressure is waking up one morning to see whether you're going to eat the next day. That's real pressure. So he understands pressure. So for him, this is just football. This is just a game of football. You know, if you lose it, it's not the end of the world. For some people, today could be their last day. And so because of that understanding, you know, he just felt that's what gave him that calmness. And I do think, you know, and I'm not being, you know, having anything against like the Europeans or even Americans, but the Africans and South Americans, I feel that when they come over to Europe to play football, they play with that heart, that hunger, that desire, because they know what, they realise how fortunate they are to be in this position, because a lot of them do come in from poverty, and because they didn't have a lot to then be able to have this money. So, you know, going back to N'Golo Kante's situation, that's why he's so humble. You know, they're not. A lot of them are not flashy. Some of them are flashy, but a lot of them are not flashy. A lot of them, like Rudiger, the reason why he wanted a good last payday on his contract, because he wants to send some money home. He's got projects in Sierra Leone that he wants to invest in. You see that with the footballers from Brazil and people like that. They support their villages, they support their families with that money. You know, over here is what flashy car am I going to get next? And sometimes these players get things too early. Everything's too easy for them. There's Chelsea youngsters who are getting 60,000, 70,000 a week without kicking a first team football, and that's why they are in their comfort zone too much. They don't want to go outside of it, and they're happy to be picking up this money rather than performing, you know, putting that sort of their life on the field, their blood and guts when they play football, you know, because they haven't had that hardship. Something to think about. So anyway, then the contract situation, really go on this contract situation. So here's what he says. Unfortunately, my contract negotiations have already started to get difficult last fall. Business is business, but when you don't hear any news from the club from August to January, the situation becomes complicated. After the first offer, there was a large gap of just nothing. We're not robots, you know. You cannot wait for months with so much uncertainty about your future. Obviously, no one saw the sanctions coming, but in the end, other big clubs were showing interest, and I had to make a decision. I will leave it at that, because business aside, I have nothing bad to say about this club. Marina and the rest of the board, what are you doing? We can't do business like that. He's on the final year of his contract. Give him a contract offer. Is it a take it or leave it? Then you want him to stew a bit. There's other clubs going to come in, going to be interested in him. And so that was a bad own goal by the club in not securing this guy, tying him up. If there was dialogue in the season before January, then I'm sure that he would have signed that contract, because he's already said how he loves the club. He's got married over here, he's got children here, he loves London, so he would have stayed if the contract offer was given to him. But you know, we can't just play hardball all the time if we want to hold down our best players. When Todd Bowley comes in as a new owner, that will be negotiating contracts in a different way. You know, okay, don't be held to ransom. I don't say you should be held to ransom. No, you shouldn't be held to ransom. But at the same time, you have to have that sort of dialogue to keep, you know, to gauge it. You can't just go for months without talking about contracts, because as he said, they're not robots. They got their own future to sort out as well. So yeah, let's see what happens with this new regime. And then he talks about abuse, really on abuse. He said, he speaks about when we lost 6-0 against Manchester City, and he's gone over to the crowd to apologise to them for that performance. And some guy in the crowd was giving him some real bad abuse. He said he can't repeat what this guy was saying to him. But he got turned on. This supporter got turned on by the rest of the guys. Said, "What are you guys doing? What are you doing, mate?" He's come over here to apologise, and you're giving him abuse. And they started singing. Everyone else started singing his name, Rudy, 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 Rudy. And it was so overwhelming that even this guy who was abusing him, in the end, he had to start applauding him. And that's what he remembers. You know, we've got some idiots in our fan base, but there are some very good ones in our fan base as well. And that's what we need to do. Whenever somebody when people are being stupid, we need to stand up against these guys and let them know that it's not going to be accepted, whether it be on social media or whether it be at the ground itself. Let's just stay united, stick together, and don't let these idiots tarnish our club. So that's it. And then he goes on to say, yes, I heard the abuse, but I also felt the love. At the end of the day, the light was stronger than the darkness. For that, I will always be Chelsea. Thank you, Rudy. So you know what? Once you're Chelsea, once you got hit by that Chelsea blood, once your blood's blue, you always stay Chelsea. That's the thing. That's the thing. We are a family. We've got such a culture in, that everyone who comes to Chelsea, they love us. So, Rudiger, wishing you all the best at Real Madrid. I know what, until you play Chelsea, obviously I want you to lose, but you've given us a lot. I wasn't one of your biggest fans at first, but you won me over. You proved me wrong, which I love. I like to be proved wrong. And now you're going to be sorely missed, and we won't find a bigger character than you. I'm hoping that we can replace you with someone who's got a big enough character, but it's going to be you're going to be big boots to fill. But we move and you move. So all the best, mate. And stick your comments down below, guys. Stick your memories of Rudiger. What's your high points, maybe your low points as well, and your well wishes to Antonio Rudiger. And if you like this video, just smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on all post notifications so you'll be notified every time I make a new video. Take care. Bye bye.